Welcome, weary hero! Come in and pull up a chair by the fireplace. Grab and enjoy a tankard or two of your favorite brew. Listen to your fellow Nephalem trade stories of their journeys throughout Sanctuary. Welcome, hero, to the Scythe and Shield.
Hello everybody, and welcome to Scythe and Shield Rebirth, to this darker, grittier, more brutal form of the podcast. And that's because we're doing it at 10:30 at night. So yes, it is quite literally dark and wintering chill outside. Need a little bit of those hellish fires to warm it up a little bit. But with me tonight, I have two very special guests to myself. They are, it's two of the three musketeers that go with me through every seasonal start, all around friends, and Shepard, we miss you. So with that, welcome to the show, Lionsword and Nite. How are you guys?
Doing well, thanks. Doing well. Thanks for having me on, Dread. Really appreciate it.
How you doing,
Great.
Lion?
Great. I'm always great. I am happy to be here to talk about Diablo. It's one of my favorite things to do, talk about Diablo.
Mm-hmm. And of course, we got a glass of apple cider, because I wish it was still fall and not this chilling winter.
Yeah, it was 22 and snowing in Kansas City on Monday, so that was fun to tell my compatriots that I work with in Florida, where it's 85 degrees and sunny. It's 22 and snowing where I'm at, so, you know, yeehaw.
Oh, wow. Yikes. Yeah, it sucks.
Yeehaw indeed. And I'm sure it's not much better by you, Nite.
Well, funny enough, actually, we're getting a warm spell right now, so we're in the 50s. So, so we're nice and warm and we're melting. But within a week, I'm sure we'll be back to regulation winter. So
Back
see how
to
it goes.
proper Canadian weather.
Now,
Yeah,
you say 50s, but you don't actually mean 50s because you count weather in Celsius, right?
That is correct. That's
Right.
correct.
So what temperature is it actually for you? Because I can't do the conversion in my head.
No, that's all good. It's above 50 is 10 degrees Celsius. So it was, I believe it was 13 degrees Celsius today. So we're well above normal. So it's normally in the 30s American. So, or single digits. So like 3-4 degrees Celsius is normal right now for where I live. So
That's just bonkers. Like, I can't imagine saying to myself that normal temperature around is like 3.
I was going to say, give it a month.
You can get used to the heat. You can also get used to the cold. Just no one says it.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So, all of us were at BlizzCon. Nite, it was your 4th? 5th?
Yeah, that's correct. Yes, on the 4th for this one here. So obviously one more. Hopefully next year will be my 5th. So get my sword, so to speak. Not literally, of course. In Blizzard terms, get my sword. So, but yeah, no, the 4th one it was great. Goes without saying, love BlizzCon every year. It's great, not only for the convention itself, but also be able to get to see everyone and hang out. So it's a wonderful time. Really look forward to it every year.
Yeah, I'm still in like unpacking and catching up mode. It won't really show up on the webcam. Oh, maybe if I move out of the way. Will it? Oh, you see those boxes back there? Those 2 Kerber boxes? Those boxes are actually the Methel and Artanis statue that I was telling you guys about. Still
Nice.
unpacked on top of the 25th anniversary one. They've just been stuck there. I have my knife on the desk, and it's like, still have not had an opportunity to just take the knife, cut the damn things open, and just put the 3 statues down. But
That would have been nice for the podcast. You could have, like, you know, one right here, one right here, like just like staring over you, wishing happy BlizzCon to you.
not everyone can have a professional podcasting Blizzard shelf like Leviathan or Nineball does.
Nightball doesn't have a shelf. He's got like an entire cabinet.
His is more like a hoard. It's kind of just like it's in like a shelf, and then it just kind of comes off the shelf, and there's like this living mass of stuff. And I would know that because I've been in that room. I've been in the room where the magic happens.
Oh, nice, nice.
But yeah, there's a lot of stuff there. Anyways, we're getting off topic. Lion, this is your first BlizzCon, and you brought along a friend. So, how was your experience?
It was pretty crazy, to be honest. Seeing the rush, I think what got me the most excited was not only standing in line. Like, I took a picture, Nite and my friend Lucas, who came with me, and I took a picture of the crowd in front of us, the sea of people trying to get into the mythic stage on Friday morning for the opening ceremony. And then I turned around and I took a picture of the mass of humanity behind us. And Nite was literally telling me, he's like, dude, just put your hand on my shoulder and we're just gonna go. Like, we're just going, and
Exactly.
if you let go, you're gonna get lost in this sea of humanity. So don't let go. You know, it's like a scene from a movie. But being with all of the Diablo community and seeing the 75% of the trailer that we got to see on the mythic stage, and
that 20 seconds that we're like, oh my god, something epic happened, like they're censoring it for us.
Oh man.
And then you realize it was nothing.
We were the only ones that missed it.
That's true.
Pretty
That's
much.
true.
So, but it was great. It was an awesome experience. Would love to make it back again and again. It was just not even seeing, like, being there and seeing everything was awesome, but just being with everybody that I've talked to online for years and experiencing the announcement that we were all expecting. So it's not like it caught us off guard or by surprise, but being there with the community made it special.
It was like, where were you when Diablo 4 was announced properly at BlizzCon?
Yep, we were there.
Yeah, and it's still like a funny thing to think about. Like, Diablo 3 was the Worldwide Invitational, Rebirthed Souls was Gamescom, and BlizzCon wasn't even a thing when Diablo 2 was around. So this was the first time a Diablo game, a new game, was announced at a BlizzCon proper, and we were there.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, it's easy to overlook that, but yeah, like you say, this is actually the first one at a BlizzCon. That's crazy.
Yeah. So, we're going to talk about BlizzCon and primarily Diablo 4 at the back end of the podcast. But since it is still a Scythe and Shield, and we want to keep it more or less proper, still going to go through a couple of the preliminary questions, still get to know these musketeers a little bit more.
Wait a minute, I have a question.
No, hands down. Nope. I'm reclaiming my time. No, stop it.
if Shepard and Nite and I are the three musketeers, does that make you D'Artagnan? And why do you get to be D'Artagnan?
Because I made it so. That's why.
Anyway.
It's my show, damn it. That's why.
I was gonna say, don't break dread.
With love, with all the world of love, whatever. It's late. The brain it's Friday too, so it's like Friday late night brain functionality is just going down the tubes. So, with that, we can go to the first section.
Nephalem.
Yeah. Forgot to tell you about the bumper part. Yeah. We're gonna leave this in. It'll be a blooper, don't worry. So we'll kind of ping pong. We'll start with Lion, go to Nite, and then we'll kind of reverse it, going back and forth like a good old fashioned game of Uno. So, Lion, where does your name come from?
The story is actually really lame, because I was like 11 when I came up with it, so it's an 11-year-old story. I'm a big fan of Final Fantasy, so I've played, but I didn't start Final Fantasy until Final Fantasy VII on the PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
So, my first, viewing of Final Fantasy is Cloud with his giant sword, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then so I played that one and then picked up Final Fantasy VIII, and the Squall's main sword is called the Lionheart. And as I was starting to learn about the internet, I told myself, well, I need a handle, right? I need like a name. I can't just go by Wes. That's lame. So I'm like, well, what about if I just take the Buster Sword and the Lionheart and I put them together and I get the Buster Heart? No, that sounds really stupid. Let's do it the other way and we'll make it the Lion Sword. Hey, that actually sounds pretty cool. And that's the story. It is not Lion's Word. It is not a ripoff of Aslan from Narnia. It is Lion Sword.
Yes.
Very nice.
I've definitely heard lamer. That's actually pretty cool. Now, same question over to you, Knight.
Yeah, for mine, it's a similar story, and I wish it was something exciting. Although I guess we all do in some way, shape, or form. Mine was similarly. I can't remember exactly what age it would have been, but probably in my teens somewhere. And mine's actually a shortened version of what it used to be, and you'll see why as I explain it. Essentially, I was just trying to figure out a handle similar. It's actually funny, similar vein to what Lionsword was talking about. And I was just looking through, I forget, there's some just random magazines I had or something like that, and I was just looking for a couple words that joined together. So I was looking, and I was like, oh, Knight. Okay, that works. And then I was looking, just like, okay, second one. For whatever reason, there was something, it was like something creep. So for whatever reason, mine was actually Night Creep. As you can appreciate,
Nice.
That sounds a little weird as you get older. And I'm like, okay, I just need to literally drop the creep and shorten it up. So I'm like, okay, Knight, that'll work. And the numbers literally just come from, because when you're trying to put a new username and you have something as uninspired as Knight, it's like you need some numbers because you and 7 million other people have thought of the same idea. So that's where the 244 comes from. I just like the numbers 2 and 4. So there's really no meaning behind the numbers 244. It just happened to work. They were high enough in the numbers list. Knight 5, Knight 6 were already used. So I just picked a big number. So yeah, that's kind of where mine came from.
It's like when Muggle Mama did hers. It was like Muggle Mama 1. No. Muggle Mama 2. No.
Exactly.
It took the 13 to get to hers. Yeah. Alrighty. So, sticking with you, Knight. Question number 2. How old are you, and what's your profession, work, study? You
bet. So this year I turned 40. So I'm probably on the older side of a lot of the Diablo community, although it's surprising actually how many others are so close to me. It's like you feel like, quote unquote, the old guy, even though I know there's lots that are older than me, don't get me wrong, but nonetheless, it's kind of cool anyways. Hit 40, that just, that numeric milestone anyways. So it's just nice to get that out of the way. So to speak. For profession, I work in IT. Specifically, I'm a network administrator, so I look after the network side of the infrastructure, kind of in a specialist role there. So, something I really enjoy. Computers, just technology is something I really enjoy, and for whatever reason, network really caught me. The networking side, that is. So I just really kind of latched onto that, and been really enjoying it, and been doing it for quite a while now. So it's been going well.
Yeah. All right. Moving over to you, Lion.
I'm turning 37 this year. I like long walks on the beach. Oh wait, that's not it.
Wait. Let me get my pad and pen for this. For a fake MySpace account.
Oh jeez, MySpace, so long ago. I'll be 37 this year. My birthday's actually next month. I'm a December baby, and I work in finance. I'm the guy that puts the spreadsheets, reports together, and sends them to the operations people and tells them to stop spending so much money.
And they're like, "Make me look good," and then you go, "Nah, I can't. You suck."
Yeah,
The numbers
spent
don't
too much money.
lie.
I can't move. I can't. That's what I could do. So right now, the industry that I'm working in is cable, specifically original programming. So I work for a news and sports organization. So we do 24-hour news, and specifically here in Kansas City, where I live, we do high school sports coverage and a little bit of the Chiefs and Royals as well.
Oh, nice.
So, but I don't get to be on TV or anything. I'm literally the guy in the cube in the back, crunching numbers on the spreadsheet, sending out TPS reports to people.
Hey, whatever gets the money, and I can do it. So, the next question is always the traditional. Again, we'll start with you, Lion. Is what was your first time seeing Diablo, and was that first time due to a particular friend, or was it just an al natural experience?
No, it was definitely due to a friend. It was freshman year of high school, so this would have been 1998. And so before Diablo 2, Diablo 1 had been released, and this is back in the day in PC games, like you could just bring the disc to your friend and they could install it and play it. Like there's no DRM or anything like that. So a friend of mine, his name's Ryan, sat behind me in our government class in freshman year, and he and I we weren't like super close friends, but we sat next to each other, so we talked, because who actually pays attention during civics class? And he hands me this disc, and he's like, "Hey, we've talked about Warcraft, and that you play Warcraft. This is a game that the same company makes called Diablo, and it's really awesome. You should try it." So I borrowed the disc from him and installed it and tried it, and I've been kind of hooked on the series ever since.
As you were saying, like loose friend, school, this class, I'm just imagining like your friend like tapping you over your shoulder, like, "Hey dude, I got this like mature game." and you're like, "Yeah, man, give me that shit.
Give me that."
And then it's like a slow, like you two are like death staring the teacher as he's like lowering his hand underneath the desk, this like pass it to like it's some kind of contraband. Just like one of those kind of scenes.
You pretty much described exactly what happened. That pretty much nailed it. 99%.
Nice. To you, Nite, same question.
Yeah, for myself, I did start with Diablo 1 and of course played Diablo 2 as well prior to Diablo 3. Myself similarly had a friend that I grew up with, and he was both of us were really into computer games, and again basically PCs, technology, all of that together. And he was similarly, he's just like, "Yeah, I've got this great awesome game, dungeon crawler, that kind of thing," and it's just like, "Oh, okay, I'll check it out, give it a whirl." And obviously really enjoyed it. I did find it interesting though, is that looking back at it, I didn't really get the whole skill trees and kind of what they did in Diablo 1 and a little bit into Diablo 2. But funny enough, when I started playing World of Warcraft, once that came out, then I kind of came back to Diablo 2 afterwards, and then I was like, oh, after I seeing the skill trees that they did in World of Warcraft, and I'm like, crap, that's what they were doing. Because I was one of those guys where it's just like, oh, that sounds cool, I'll put 1 point here. Oh, that sounds cool, I'll put 1 point here, and then I'll put 2 points over here, and I just had things sprayed everywhere, and nothing was really gelling, and it wasn't working very well. But once I understood it, it's like, no, you need to like focus on these particular ones, and you maybe need to add 3 to here so that you can build that next one that's lower down the tree. Then it started to gel, and it made a lot more sense, and as you can guess, I actually had a lot more fun with the game then, and it kind of went on from there. So yeah, it was kind of funny how Blizzard games, they kind of work together anyways to help gel that in, and for me anyways, make it more fun.
Yeah, it's like still doing all these podcasts and interacting with people, still thinking, like raising my hand slowly, going, "I'm just a Diablo 3 baby." But
that's okay. Late arrivers to the series can still be the biggest fanboys in the world.
Yeah, still part of me that kind of likes it that way, because I'm not tethered to the legacy of it all, but it's still something I appreciate when other people talk about it. And just how basically that was like my Counter-Strike days when I was making Counter-Strike maps. I wasn't really good at Counter-Strike, but I can make really good maps. And people like playing on them, so as long as I was part of a group that had a dedicated server, I could play my maps with other people, not by myself in the corner going, there's nothing to kill or to kill me. Anyways, moving along. Now, since this is going to be kind of a bridge version, this will be the last question for this section, is what is your biggest wish for the franchise going forward? And now that Diablo 4 is announced, it's like, Diablo 4, it's like, no, we got it. So I guess if we had to phrase it, it's like, what would be your biggest wish for Diablo 4 as we see development going forward? And Nite, you'll take this one first.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, obviously the joke is, okay, well, what we're hoping for, Diablo 4. So that's it. It's like, okay,
Diablo MOBA.
Exactly. Obviously, with so much going on in Diablo 4, it's, I mean, obviously we're looking forward into that, kind of as you led into, and it is a little tougher, at least for me, to see past Diablo 4, and I guess so. I'll look at it as, I mean, what are we looking for in Diablo 4? And I mean, a lot of what they've said already is really kind of what I'm hoping for, and I mean, obviously that's an easy cop out to saying, yep, what they mentioned is awesome, let's go with it, kind of thing. But obviously, just hoping just the same that they're gonna, as they mentioned, develop and expand upon the ideas that they had at the demo and what was shown at BlizzCon, so that it's. And I'm sure they will, like you say, it's not just going to be kind of what they have there with 2 more classes and more quote unquote stuff, that they again expand on that and obviously take feedback as they're mentioning from the community. Hopefully that goes well and they get some valuable feedback. I think I'm pretty sure they will, really, with what's been mentioned even so far in the first literally week or 2 since BlizzCon. So yeah, lots of excitement, to say the least. But again, to your question, I don't have, I guess, one particular item, more of a generality of, like you say, just in how their development goes.
No, that's fine. It's whatever you come up with.
Understood.
And to you, Mr. Lion.
I really hope to see some sort of innovation in the genre. I want this game to be more than just Diablo 2 plus Diablo 3. I want this game to be a forward-moving, forward-thinking game and franchise. Like, if 20 years from now, when Nite is 60, and the rest of us are younger than him,
Nice.
we are all still playing an isometric over-the-shoulder 3D click loot grabber, I will be disappointed. I enjoy that gameplay. I enjoy the loot gathering aspect of the game. I enjoy the murdering of thousands of evil demons. But like, at some point, you have to innovate on the genre to make it different. And I am not creative enough to come up with ways to do that. I just know what it will look like when it happens. So that is my biggest wish into the future, is that Blizzard figures out a way to innovate on this genre specifically. You can even make it as narrow as the isometric third up above view ARPG, that specific genre. They innovate on that and become the real, like, leaders again of what this genre should be all about.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, for many months, if not like the last year or 2, that was like a big thing with most of the people, because it really is, for a lot of people, we I guess you could say it's human nature, we tend to know what we don't want But when it comes to what we actually want, that's a lot
We don't
harder.
know. Yep.
So I think a lot of people
Agreed.
were stating that leading up to, well, last year's BlizzCon and this year's, and then consequentially this BlizzCon as well. It's like, I just want Blizzard to make Diablo the king of the action RPG genre again, because that's something easy. You know exactly what people mean when they say that, and it's still very valid. And yeah, we'll get more into it when we get to the Burning Notes. But that's it for the Hail Nephalem. And we're going to move over to the next segment.
7 deadly sins.
Alrighty. And we are here. Are you prepared for these rapid fire questions?
I am so ready. You don't even know. I prepared all day for these questions that I don't know were coming.
Exactly.
It's like I should ask, like, do you trust me?
No.
Oh dear. It's like, what
We
sections
don't.
are we skipping? No, sorry.
I wrote them down quickly, so they're probably like PG-13 at most on the entertainment scale. The go to ESRB rating scale. Definitely not the cinematic level of maturity, because that wouldn't be fun enough, I guess. Anyways, moving along. This is for both of you, so start with Lion. Who had the most hotel room offenses during BlizzCon?
I don't think we had any.
Someone's...
Interesting. Okay.
So
I know you're trying to be rapid fire on this. Just because what comes to mind, I'm gonna say SVR. So
I will agree with that. Lionsword specifically, favorite part of BlizzCon?
Thursday night Diablo Cards Against Humanity. Getting to know everybody in that environment was awesome.
You make my heart flutter when you say
Very nice.
a
Very
month worth of nervousness paid off in some respects. All right, both of you, starting with Nite. Favorite fruit truck?
Food truck. Probably. What's the name? I think it's called Cala Truck. It's just kind of nice light food, not super heavy. So.
Lion.
I gotta pay homage to Nine Ball here. The Barcelona truck with the
Fucking
steak and the French fries.
Yeah.
I mean, it was amazing. And I had never even heard
Podcast
it.
over. No.
I had
no.
never even heard of chimichurri before, and it was like okay, like it wasn't awesome, but like the dressing was good. When I heard it, I was like, oh god, I'm gonna hate this. But the steak was phenomenal. Like wow.
Yeah, that's really good too. That's really good.
Long live the India truck. That's all I gotta say.
It was good too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Anyways, both of you, starting with Lion, what do you think the first thing Lilith is going to do to us in game?
Oh geez. Probably she will probably tell us that we are unworthy and to go F off.
I see what you did there. Nite.
Good lord, I gotta actually think of something now. I was gonna say vaguely similar. That I mean, there's gonna be a speech of sorts, and for some reason I'm wanting to say that she's gonna cast either something on us or over us. That's gonna, I mean, somehow just in lieu of how the story's done and whatnot in there. So that's kind of where I'm going with it.
No, I like the idea that she actually is trying to help us. And I know we've talked about the direction that we think the story is going to go. I like the idea that she actually casts something like beneficial on us to protect us. So, anyway.
Nice. Yes.
Oh, and just so you know, this question is a bet where I don't have to put an answer down, and if you're wrong, you both still owe me $5. It's a one-way bet. It's recorded. It's on video. It's recorded, so it happened. Anyways,
It's on the internet.
yeah. And now the infamous question number 6, which was always Diablo 4 is announced and it's glorious, can now be stated as, and we'll start with Lion, Diablo 4 was announced and it was glorious. What was your first reaction?
I was underwhelmed.
Oh,
Oh, interesting. Not the
Do you,
expected response.
do you want me to elaborate, or this is the rapid fire section?
no. We can elaborate later. Nite, how about you?
Mine was more positive. I was gonna say, kind of, I want to describe it as hair standing on end. So in all the good ways. So
Okay. Last question. Again, both of you. Start with Nite this time around. Is it better to have played the demo and not have it for the next year or two than it would have been to never have played it at all?
yes, 100%. No, well worth playing and definitely worth experiencing. So I'd definitely say it's well worth playing.
I feel like saying no just to be the contrarian, but that's wrong. The answer is yes, like 1,000% yes. That the demo was amazing, and
Okay.
it changed my underwhelmedness to more of a whelmed. So
Okay. All right. Thank you, viewers and friends, and you too, for joining me down this road of the 7 deadly sins.
Hear ye, read all about it. The burning times.
And with that, we have reached the last segment of the show, The Burning Times. Now, if it hasn't been, or isn't apparent right now, the main topic is going to be Diablo 4. The actual burning end times of Sanctuary, apparently. So yeah, I don't quite know where we want to start. I guess it could... What? Sure,
Didn't
fine.
raise their hand.
So since we just segued and we just did this in the previous section, I want to talk about my first impressions of the Diablo 4 trailer and panel.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay.
That's good. That's better, because I was just gonna jibber jabber about the cinematic for like 10 minutes.
So the cinematic was really good. I felt it was way over the top on the like horror and gore and viscera and etc. Which, I mean, there was like a sign outside BlizzCon and in the studio or in the Mythic stage that said, you know, this is for mature audiences only. Don't bring your kids to this. And that definitely followed up and delivered on that promise. But like, I felt like it was purely for shock value, and they were kind of pandering to all of the Diablo 2 players who were like, oh, D3 is all rainbows and really bright things and it's not dark enough. I'm like, it doesn't need to be like this over the top to be Diablo. Not that I am against it in any way. I just, initially, that was my feeling. And then watching the panel, watching the features that were going to be announced with it, it felt like Diablo 2. The game. With better graphics. And I was very disappointed in that. And that was only an initial impression. And once we played the demo, you know, I felt the Diablo 3 in the game. Like, when you play the game, you can tell it's not the Diablo 2. It's the gameplay of Diablo 3 is in there. And the smoothness and the crispness and even the world, like you see because the graphical quality makes such a difference. We go back and play Diablo 2 sometimes, and I love running around in 800 by 600 resolution. And it's so different when you can see all of the textures and the beauty of the terror that like exists in this world. You can see it, you can feel it. The soundtrack, the way the characters move and talk and interact with the monsters on the screen, it's incredible. So once I actually got to play the demo, that those feelings of this is just Diablo 2 remastered went away. And, you know, when we looked at the items and the way the items were done, it looked a lot more like Diablo 3 than Diablo 2, just from an interface perspective. So now I am viewing it more of like the perfect marriage, their goal anyway, is the perfect marriage between Diablo 2 and Diablo 3. which is a great start. And my hope is that they don't end with that. I hope that that's just the start, and that they continue to build on that marriage, and that's the foundation. But then the actual game of Diablo 4 is so much more than that.
Yeah.
So those were my kind of initial impressions coming away specifically about Diablo 4 BlizzCon.
All right. And I guess Nite, since Lion sort of kind of took like initial impressions and thoughts about the panels and overall view at the point, if you want to kind of go along that same vein.
Yeah, you bet. So with mine, I guess mine is probably going to sound a little more fanboy focused anyways, and it is what it is. But
it's a job and someone has to do it around here.
There you go. Some of it might be too is because, again, I've been to a few BlizzCons. I know lots of us have, but there's also the expectation to, or I'll word it anyways, as expectation that it is going to be over the top. It's just going to be bombastic and just big and loud and just, oh my God, what's, I mean, it's kind of like you're going to the movie theater kind of thing, but for short little stints. So for me, I didn't feel like it was too much, but I can understand where Lion's coming from just the same on that. But I really enjoyed it. I was, just like loving it every minute kind of thing. And even more so on consecutive watches afterwards, like, coming home here and watching it at home. It's just like, I'm loving this. Also with when they showed the initial gameplay trailer as well, I still remember when they first showed the druid coming in, and then he does his transforms into the bear form and just slams down and just annihilates all the monsters around him. It just makes my hair, even right now, even just describing it, still stand on ends. It's like, I love that. It's awesome kind of thing. And they do a really good job with I think what's called the sizzle reel anyways, with that gameplay footage and whatnot. It is, again, it's a little bit over the top. They're hitting all their notes, but I think it really does a good job of selling it, which is a bit of BlizzCon. I mean, they're trying to sell their product. They want to get in. It's like, you guys want this. This is awesome. Here's why you want it, kind of thing. Yeah. And I was really enjoying that. Really enjoying, all they had to offer in that. In the panel, touching on that aspect of it, I was looking at it again, fanboyish kind of sounding here, very positively with the D2 kind of feel to it. Looking at it as, well, this probably isn't just all they've got. This is what they have in the demo. And again, some of that could be seeing previous demos of not just Diablo, but other games as well, where they show you a snapshot of what they've got. And it's never going to be the finished product. It's kind of like, here's what we've got in time. Here's what we can give you for the demo. We're going to make it super polished, but assume that this is not all we've got. And
yeah, for sure, definitely.
Yeah, and I was super excited with what I see, but also bringing it back. With what Lion said too, definitely want to see more. Like, don't stop there, like you say. Expand on what they've said. Expand on what the community's been mentioning as well, and like you say, keep going, keep pushing it. Like, go, kind of thing. So.
Yeah. My initial reaction to the cinematic. Granted, we missed out on that 20 seconds. In Mythic Hall, that one up actually being nothing. It's like we missed the part where we kind of missed, like, all we did is that we missed the fact of, like, the what the pale face guy was, what happened to him, how he got locked behind that stone door and everything. That was pretty much what we missed out on. It was actually kind of odd and yet funny that it was like that particular part, because we thought, oh no, this is what they're like trying to center. No. But it wound up being nothing. No, the cinematic was great. It's still kind of like odd how, like, at the end, like, Lilith is standing there with that pose and that demeanor, the blood cape, as we come to called it, still attached to the three bodies up and on the pillars. Like, oh yeah, this is just how things roll around here. Like, geez. And then, the initial gameplay trailer, I'm like, okay, no, this is good. Like, this is how, and then how they showed the world off. And as they were showing things off, I guess, because I know it's like I plug it almost at every time, but that's because not because I want to, have everyone read it, but it's just because of what it meant to me. It was more of a brainstorming, just get the ideas out of me, just so I could actually like and love this game again. After I did the development hell article that you two specifically, along with Shepard, who's the third musketeer, we all, I would usually be the catalyst, and we have these debates to try to get your guys' perspectives. But it was just because I felt like more could be done, and I felt I had these ideas. And after doing it, putting it out there, and whoever saw it, I basically boiled down to what I wanted from the next Diablo game to be, for me, which is really odd. I wanted an emotional response. I didn't want system A, B, C, or they have to have this or have to have this. I want an emotional response, and it was to just be excited to be a Diablo player again, and it was also to not feel I have to carry the burden of defending the franchise anymore. And lastly, I have to rationalize why I'm playing this game. It's like, I like playing it, but it's missing this, but I can rationalize it because I can always do X, Y, Z. Like that kind of stuff. It's kind of sort of how we do that with Diablo 3 in some respects. And by the end of the cinematic, and then the gameplay trailer, then the initial concept where it was basically like keyword soup, like PvP, open world, random dungeons, trading, like all these buzzwords, and I'm like, I felt relieved. Like I wasn't excited, but I felt I was something better. I was relieved. I was like everything that I felt needed to happen, base wise, like for a good foundation for the game, happened. So if anything, I just felt relieved, which for me is actually better than being excited, because if I'm relieved, that means I internalized what they did and said, no, this is generally all good, fantastic for the foundation of the game, and hopefully when they come up with more systems when they're ready to show us, they'll go from there. And after the game systems panel, since I was part of media, I was in the group interview, as well as just the general panel, and then the lore Q&A panel. It's like they really, it's kind of like the perfect example, to keep this short, is when it went from D3 to Rebirthed Souls. There was a changing of the guard, and the new people in understood what was wrong with Diablo 3, for better or worse, and they knew what they had to do to make Rebirthed Souls what Rebirthed Souls had to be to bring new life into it. They understood what they had to change, they understood what they had to bring new to the game, and they understood that they had to humble themselves, because for the most part, the community, when they said we need this, we weren't just blowing smoke up their ass, so to speak. So I feel that this I wouldn't say brand new team, because there's a couple of faces in there that are at least new to me, and I loosely know a bulk of the dev team. I think the game director, to me, is new, unless he was involved in a different game and he got promoted. But I know the game director is new to me, name-wise. A few of the people who were on the systems panel were new to me. I think one or two people on the lore panel were new. So that's great. They're getting new people in, new perspectives, fresh perspectives, and hopefully the game is just going to be better for it. Because, like you said, Lion, my viewpoint, the game is in a good position right now, but I think, and kind of segue to a new topic, as I was talking the night before the podcast, my biggest thing is making sure systems don't kind of fall to the wayside, and I think World of Warcraft and the team has done a decent job of doing that, because they look back at their 5-man dungeons and they made mythics of them. which, you know, as Diablo players, we go, but that's where our greater rifts came from and everything like that. And that's kind of coming back full circle with endgame dungeons, which is fine. It means like dungeons aren't just something you do to level up, they're something you do after the fact. That was the first bit of endgame that they told us about that was ready to at least tell us about, that they felt solid enough. But things like the world bosses, I love them. I like that they're there. I like that they're going to be a source. But I feel that that in their current iteration, if they don't do too much to them over the course of development, I feel that they're kind of one-notey, that you kind of just do it. And I feel like systems like that can kind of lead to this weird cost versus value analysis. And it could just be something as simple as, ooh, a shop is going to spawn there. That could be some quick materials, but it's going to take, she'll spawn in like 2 minutes or 5 minutes. It's going to take me 4 minutes to get there. And then I have to actually kill her, and then like the drops are going to be the drops. Like, do I really want to do it? Do I really want to get on my mount, go there, wait, do it? Or do I just want to go do this dungeon real quick? So I feel if I had any one concern, and you guys can comment on it or branch off from there, is I just want to make sure that the good foundation they have is they're looking at their systems not just as individual branches coming off the trunk of Diablo 4, but there's ways of extending their lifetime as they go forward. I mean, there's going to be a natural end to these systems or usefulness, but making sure that they're just not these one-note systems. And how do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, it's a really good point, and you know, I mean, I think really well said, essentially on that. Wish I had much more to add to it, but I think essentially you've got a really good point there, and just basically kind of reiterating it is, like you say, making sure that they expand upon what they're building, and like you say, just don't make it go in, kill it, done. You know what I mean? Repeat next week, repeat tomorrow, whatever that is. Like you say, have some mechanics behind it. Make it interesting. Make it, if you've got a group of different sizes or a group of different makeups, for example, like you've got all wizards or something like that. Make it have different mechanics, things like that. Like there's a bazillion, so to speak, different ways they could approach it, and hopefully they look at some of those different angles so that again, they can kind of make it interesting. So it's like, oh well, hey everybody, jump on your wizard, let's go do this thing, because it'll make it different when we try and freeze the enemy with our blizzard or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing. So yeah, no, I really, all I can say is I agree with where you're coming from. I think it's a really good point. So.
I think the part about the world boss is particularly interesting. You know, it depends on kind of when they call out when the world boss is going to spawn, right? Like if the world boss, you only get like a 5-minute warning before the world boss is going to spawn, based on whatever shard you're in. You know, but if it's more like 25 minutes, you know, I have time to go do a dungeon now. I can go and collect all of these different rare materials that the dev team said is going to exist in crafting, right? Like you're going to have to go to each specific location to find some of these materials. You know, it kind of brings back some memories of Staff of Herding, trying to create the Staff of Herding in the original Diablo 3, right? Trying to find these rare materials to craft whatever it is we have to craft. You know, you could better plan out kind of your play session, right? Like you have a better idea about what you're actually going to do, and then I can hit the world boss after I do that, and then maybe I'll have time to do a mythic key dungeon, whatever they end up calling them, and that'll work better that way. But at the same time, like if the rewards for the world boss are too good, am I just going to just hop from game to game looking for other people that have the world boss up? You know, that has a very World of Warcraft feel to it. So for any of us or anybody listening that has played WoW, the jumping from server hop to server hop, trying to find either nobody on that shard that's gathering anything, or trying to find specific mobs for whatever. Like, that's a real thing. And I think during Nethershard fighting, during Legion, was at its like peak because people would hop from server to server to find versions of the island that had monsters up, and you'd farm them all, and then you'd move on because the respawns weren't every 2 or 3 minutes. It was however long it was, a longer period of time. And if the world boss in Diablo turns into that, that will be a negative. Unless the rewards are so bad that nobody cares. And at that point, nobody cares, so what does it matter? So there's going to be a really interesting line that Blizzard's got to toe with this whole idea of a world boss that spawns at a static time that multiple people are going to come into. Like, when we were playing the demo, they had us set on 4 machines were set to be able to party up with the same game, right? But then when you walked into the area where the world boss was, you would see like probably 5 other sets of 4 PCs there. And there were probably 20 people on the screen, maybe 15 to 20. Like, where do those people come from? Do they come from other shards? Obviously the world boss is spawning at the same time on theirs. How do I get to this other group? It's going to be a really interesting dynamic between not only timing when the world boss spawns and how frequently it spawns, but making the rewards good enough to make you want to do it, but not so good that you want to exploit it.
Yeah, I agree. And just to piggyback on that thought as well, is that I hope that they take some I don't want to say feedback, but rather some ideas and whatnot that other Blizzard games have used. I mean, I think your WoW example is a great one, because like you say, the world boss is in Diablo 4 is a little bit like, you know, I mean, world bosses in the current retail WoW. And it's like they have weekly lockouts, they have mechanisms, like you say, where it's like, yeah, we've got some really awesome rewards. It doesn't mean you're going to get them, but you know what I mean? We have some really awesome rewards tied to these things. And like you say, they prevent the farming mechanisms and things like that, so that people will go do it, but it's not like they can just sit there and camp it for, you know what I mean? My day to day is just camping this world boss kind of thing. So hopefully they use ideas like that. Again, obviously we don't want Diablo 4 to become an MMO, and it really doesn't sound like they're going there. But it seems like they're pulling little tidbits here and there of the MMO genre, and just kind of things that will work well in the ARPG genre, and utilizing them there. So hopefully they don't just say, okay, you know what I mean, we're going to work in our own little world. And I'm pretty sure that they would talk with the rest of Blizzard. We'll simplify it that way to say, hey, what do you guys know? How have you done this? What have you worked around? What are the issues you've run into? And so on and so forth. So.
Yeah, I mean, because again, that Destiny article that sucked 2.5 months away of my life. It's because it's not so much. I've taken like the opposite view of what I think I would normally have said, maybe like a year ago, 2 years ago. It's when I view a Shava and like, you know, all right, she's gonna spawn in 15 minutes, like, is it really worth for me to trek all the way there and do it? Is it really worth my time and effort? Probably die 2 or 3 times because of the blades and everything, and then just get like 2 or 3 rares, a magic item, some gold and experience, but I'm maxed out, so I'm not getting experience, so maybe I get more gold, but it's like I can do a dungeon or an in-game dungeon. So it's not so much what would be stereotypical right now of make it worth my time to do it. I want to approach it from the opposite view time of make me respect the world bosses. Do something to make me respect them, the fact that they're there, and make me want to take heed when they pop up that I want to do it. There has to be a hook there. And that's either kind of, instead of make them literally one note like a Shava just pops out, introduce phasing. So there's, you know, a phase of just goatmen that just come out that you just have to kill, and then after that there's a second phase of where you have drowned spellcasters that are look like they're summoning initially Ashava, but they're actually trying to power her up. And then, say, if you kill them all, Ashava comes out normally. But if you don't kill them all by the time Ashava spawns, say for each one that's still up, of course Ashava comes up and just obliterates them all, because that would be Diablo. Like, oh, thanks for empowering me, die, that kind of deal. It would make for a great summoning animation, so to speak. Ashava gets like a 5% health increase and a 5% damage increase. So there's 5 spellcasters, so you can go from there. And then, but if you want to add a little bit of player-driven dynamic difficulty, I know that's a lot to say, and it seems like it's a big thing, but really what it boils down to is, say you're in a group and everyone agrees, no, leave all the spellcasters up. We'll wait 7 minutes. And you're like we want to take on the challenge. And let's say it's not just this one-off thing with Ashava with these spellcasters. All the world bosses have something like this. That if you choose to have the final chapter or the final phase of the world boss be harder willingly, then there's a possible increase in the reward that drops. Or there's more materials that will drop. And you can make it random per world event. That would be turning these events into these one-off, just face tank it until it's dead things, into a more structured, more world-based event that has phases and structures and things you have to do. And if you can get a group together to make it harder, you don't have to select Torment 10 and go in and do it versus normal and do it. It's driven by the game. It's driven by your decision right there in the event, and you could possibly increase your experience or your rewards or increase in that. I feel that's where they need to head towards, and other games have done this. In fact, this concept actually came from Warhammer Online, Age of Reckoning. That was done by Mythic Studios all those years ago, because the way they approached it, they had these things called public quest events. And it's basically what I described. There were phases. You went in, and based on your contribution to it, determined your reward at the end, and you can repeat it multiple times. So that's essentially just doing that with Ashava, and it makes you respect the world event. It makes the world events seem bigger, and it adds more replayability to all the world events, and you get a little bit more enjoyment out of it, because quite frankly, it's like, let's be honest, the main problem I have with the world events, or at least the one with Ashava, is you can be a sorceress, come in the last 5%, throw a couple of blizzards on, and you get your item, and then you're done. Basically, it's just like last hitting. And if that's a mechanic that exists, what do you think all the hardcore players are going to do? Do you think the hardcore players are going to be like, yeah, we'll totally tackle those twin Ashava blades. Like, we'll totally live. Yeah, this will be fine. We'll be fine. The whole world is burning around them. They're on fire. But it's like, no, we'll be fine. No, you're going to wait. All those hardcore players who value their character be like, okay, Ashava's at like, what? 10%. Alright, she's not doing her blade attack. Alright, blizzard, teleport away. Dead. Okay, go in, get my gear, get my gold, I'm done. So, there has to be better ways of incentivizing the players to actually go there and actually respect the world event. And I know we've gone on and I brought this up, you guys have talked on it, but I feel for all the good things that Diablo 4 is doing, this has to be something that they have to think about and make sure that it's not just go in, face tank, and then you're done, because that's boring.
Yeah, I really like the idea of like a hard mode, an activatable hard mode. Kind of, it reminds me of Old War, And you had like these optional hard modes while you're in World of Warcraft raiding Old War. Yeah, Destiny 2 actually does this in their public events, where it's not readily evident what you need to do to activate the hard mode, but when you figure it out, you have to, either shoot this specific thing on whatever has come down, or you have to loot 7 dongles that are around the area, and that will activate this giant other thing that happens during the event, right? That type of dynamic gameplay where you have to like think and engage in what you're doing would be a welcome addition to the Diablo universe for sure, and way better than the face tanking example where you just run around and spin in circles until everybody else kills it, and then you last hit it and go, "Yay, legendaries!"
Exactly.
Mhm.
And then I guess to expand on the idea too, that I remember, I do believe Diablo 4 was talking about, that they want to make sure that the players have all the information they need. They could do that through things like buffs, or little kind of like buff like icons on the screen. For example, like Dread's example, where they've got 5 minions on the screen, and you could just say 25%, increased chance of drops, or however they want to do it. Maybe that's not the best example, but you get the idea anyways. And then as you kill them, then that number goes down, so that you can kind of look at that and hover over it and go, oh, well, why is that number decreasing? Oh crap, we just killed a few of these. Okay, next time go in and do this. So it's a little bit like Lion was saying as well, is that it's not readily obvious what you need to do, but they're giving you all the pieces. You just need to kind of pay attention to what's going on and what's on your screen and what's your surroundings. So yeah, no, I think that I really like those ideas, you guys. So I think they're really good.
Yeah.
Anything that encourages dynamic gameplay, I am for.
Yeah, because that's the way I view it. Because moving on to the endgame dungeons, which is kind of a new thing for us, and I love that we have them, but I also kind of view those are definitely not as one-notey as world bosses. They're not, just by you have many variables in the key, so you have keys to all the dungeons, and for each one of those keys there's going to be different amount of affixes along with different affixes, plus you're going to have a rank associated to them, so there's many variables there. So everyone's asking, Dread, what the fuck is your problem with them? I'm going like, well, the issue that you kind of have, and everyone kind of takes like the natural defense, it's like, well, if there's a key that's either too high or has an affix that your character can't do, you can just break it down for parts. And I think that was more or less stated, like they're going to throw keys at you, so they do expect you to take a certain amount of them, just get rid of them. But I'm also viewing it as like, okay, your character is eventually going to get strong enough that you're eventually going to start ditching the lower keys. So kind of imagine a pie chart. Split it in half to just be generous towards both sides. 50% of the keys you get, you're going to ditch. 50% of the keys you're going to keep. Okay. So now the 50% of the keys you're going to keep, eventually that's going to start getting smaller and smaller, because you're going to work up. You're going to go from your rank 1s to your rank 2s to your rank 5s, ranks 10s, all the way up to 15s, and however high they go. So you're constantly chipping away from the keys that you're initially going to keep. So say you chip away half of it. So now of all the keys you're getting, you're only going to keep about 25%. And now, since you have higher rank keys with more affixes, your class, not even just your build, like your build is a limiter, but maybe just your class just can't handle certain affixes in combination with other affixes. So again, you're chip. So maybe about like towards endgame. Now granted, endgame dungeons is only the first part of the total endgame structure of Diablo 4, but it's the only one we have now, so that's the one we're talking about. Say like only 15%, and this, I guess this is just an imaginary number, but it's an illustration of all the keys you get, you may only be able to use a small percentage of them in a realistic faction. So I'm like, how can we make it so you actually want to keep some of those other keys, maybe even the really lower ones, and give them a purpose? And then a thought I had was, what if we get crafting involved here? What if there was a key forger? I don't know, a key master. We can start getting the Ghostbusters and Zool and all this kind of fun stuff, where you could purposely put this would basically be where I said before was effort in, effort out. This would basically be a philosophy of give and take. The give part of it would be you'd be willingly adding an affix to a key. So if you had like a rank 5 key that had an affix, you'd be willingly putting another affix on it. No increase in rank, all the benefits of the rank 5 would just be there. You just be willingly making it a harder key. But the take part of the give and take is the affix would be random, but the take part would be known at the crafter. Like 20% more gold drop, 10% item quality percentage. So if a blue dropped, it has a 10% chance to be a rare. If a rare drops, it has a 10% chance to be a legendary, so on and so forth. Little buffs, like things that may have been controlled by charms back in Diablo 2. This would be a way of doing that in Diablo 4, but to be in a completely new way using a new system. And I feel that would give the lower keys more of a purpose than just throwaways. Because as we've grown to learn, not grown to learn, but grown to accept in Diablo 3, after the first week, you're just ditching rares and magic items and normal items. You're hitting that salvage all button faster than Hedrick could swing his hammer. It's like you're picking up because you need it for the materials, but you don't need the items for themselves. So if we can try to avoid that somewhat with all these keys, because they said they're going to throw keys at us. If we can try to make it so that's why it's like, okay, I'm looking for rank 10 to 15 with this affix that I'm going to do on any dungeon. But I'm also looking for rank 3 to 8 of these particular dungeons, so I can use them for material grinding or gold grinding or XYZ grinding. So so it's player controlled. It's basically kind of like how like the oh god, we've done so many of them I've forgotten what they are. The gold ring.
Puzzle
Oh,
ring.
you mean
Puzzle ring, thank god.
Oh, puzzle ring. I was gonna say avarice band, but no.
But
puzzle ring.
it's kind of like that in a way, but it's not like the game says like, okay, yeah, here, just throw this in a cube and there you go, there's a vault. It's like, no, it's player controlled. It's like,
There's a little bit of gameplay involved.
yeah, it's a little bit of gameplay. It's player controlled. It fills the same niche. Like, you throw in a puzzle ring, you can go and get gold item materials. With the keys, you can take a lower key, put an affix on it, go grind out some materials, go grind out some gold, go grind out for hopefully maybe better items or however many other systems or items they put into the game. But it's user controlled. It's not like you have to look for one specific item to do this. And it wouldn't take much. I say this from my non-developer wave. But again, it kind of takes the endgame dungeon system and kind of takes it from, okay, instead of it just being the first step on the staircase of endgame that they have ready for us, it gives it more life. It extends its usefulness, its purpose, and it makes the player respect that system more, because it's like, it's not just about running it for the ranks and the higher drop rates. It's you can utilize it as a tool for gaining more items or gold or whatever you want to use it for. So it makes you think more. And I think that's what a lot of people want from Diablo 4. They want to have more checkpoints when they have to think about whether it's items and what's best for you, or the systems that we interact with. It's like, if I have to think more about it, then the game is doing its job, because it's making me respect it, and it's not just, alright, I'm logging in, I'm going to go run this endgame dungeon because nothing else will give me the best reward. I mean, at a certain point that may be true, or at a certain point it may, whatever comes above endgame dungeon will be the end all be all, and that's just a natural acceptance we have to take. But at least if there's other purposes there, if they have more life, it's not just like, because otherwise we run into like the brawling situation. There's no reward, why do it? And challenge rifts, the only reason why we do them is because of the cash. If the cash wasn't there, we wouldn't do challenge rifts. The only reason why we do bounties,
Very true.
the only reason why we do bounties is because of like the half dozen items that are actually decent that drop from the bags, and the bounty materials. So if it was for the bounty materials, or like again the half dozen items, we wouldn't do bounties. So we have to make sure that it's not so reward driven that we feel enslaved to do these things. Like we want the system has to be its own. The system has to reinforce itself without a reward. I think that's what I'm trying to get at after this all too long explanation.
Well, and to add more to your key idea as well, is I'm hoping that these keys are going to be what I'll call account bound, using a Warcraft term, so that if you craft one, or heck, even if you just get one dropped and it's like, oh, this is awesome for my sorceress. I was realizing I was calling it wizard earlier, but anyways, for my sorceress, barbarian, whatever the class that you're not running, and you can just throw it in your stash or whatever mechanism they have, and you can go run it on there. And then also, I hope that that they've got an inventory system for these keys, that we don't have half of our stash clogged up with keys. We've all seen that before with D3 and their current implementation of things, and it's like, please just put them in their own inventory slot. However you want to do it, we don't care. Just don't put it in the main spot. Thank you, please.
Yeah. I think they are, because
I would agree.
Because one positive aspect on that. And Lion, I won't shun you out of a response, but just a quick note of the character inventory. I don't know how many people know about it, but it was like your standard inventory spot, and then it had a utility, and then it had a materials, then it had a 4 slot. I forgot what the 4 slot was, but it was only, I think, it was only after BlizzCon. I was watching a part of Riker's demo stream, and he just happened to scroll down on the inventory. I'm like, whoa, hold the phone. We were able to scroll the inventory? Whoa, what are those other spots? So I think it may, and like the potions went in the utility spot that didn't take up the main inventory. So I think keys will go there, but we don't know because the system wasn't in. But we'll definitely talk about the things we liked a whole lot more than this. It's not that we didn't like, world bosses or the key. It's just that, I'll admit it, I brought these up because those are the two things I feel, from what they showed, are good, but they can be great. And that's where I'm at. I want these systems to be not just good, I want them to be great or excellent. So.
Now, I thought the key dungeons were a great idea. For a couple reasons. This is my thought process on doing dungeons. Can I do them with a group or solo? Whichever one I want to do, can I do either one of those? Check. Yes. Are they timed? Please say no. Check. They're not timed. Hooray! I can do these. I can pause. I can now, if you're in a single player game, obviously you can pause a Greater Rift and put it down in Diablo 3. But if I'm in a group and I've got to go, my 4-year-old woke up and is screaming bloody murder and my wife's about to pull her hair out, I can be like, hey guys, I know this is a timed deal, but I need you guys to sit here for 5 minutes and probably not make the timer while I go upstairs and deal with this. Like, that's not a good situation. So, like, we don't need things to be timed. We want to do things as efficiently as possible and as fast as possible. I mean, what Greater Rift time do we aim for when the 4 of us are playing in a season? Like, sub 5, right? The timer's 15 minutes. The goal is to never get close to 15 minutes, because that's not as efficient.
Exactly.
So the timer...
That Leviathan efficiency gets beaten into you.
It
so
does.
hard.
It does.
So fucking hard.
Quite true.
And so I love that they're not timed. So those two things, being able to do them solo and as a group, if you want to, check. Not have them timed, check. I'm all in for dungeons. I love dungeons. I think they are super interesting, especially the fact that there's so many of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's great. I love the key system. Make the dungeons that I know and have done and I enjoy infinitely replayable with a higher difficulty and that are better recording. Also sounds great. Also not timed. Also can do solo as a group.
Yep.
All of these things sound wonderful, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to the point about the keys, I almost thought that it sounded like we would be doing, and I'm just going to use these numbers as an example. If the highest dungeon that I could do efficiently was a 12, I would probably find that sweet spot of keys between like 6 and 8, maybe. And those would be the ones that I would target. And I would do a 6 or 8 of any dungeon. And then as the key ranks get higher, the number of dungeons that I would want or willing to do would get smaller, right? Like, so let's say I've got like my favorite 2 dungeons. I'm only going to do like 11s and 12s of those 2 dungeons. And if I get an 11 and 12 of something else, I'm going to shard it. But I will do any 6 or 8, like 6 through 8 that I get, because I can do those based on my character's power, regardless of what the affix is. So, like, I get your point that eventually you're going to get to a spot on the pie chart that you're, like, the number of keys that you're sharding way outnumbers the number of keys that you're actually using. But I'm not sure it's, like, I think it might still be in that 50% range, because I'm going to keep these high-level ones for these couple dungeons, but I might keep, like, all of these in the 6 to 8 range, because I want to do all of those as my primary in-game activity. And I can do them in like 3 minutes. And, you know, it's like us farming Greater Rift keys in Diablo 3, right? Like, we farm Greater Rift keys, some of us, like Shepard, farm Greater Rift keys ad nauseum. And I'm like, hey guys, how many keys do you got? Well, Lion's got 20. And I was like, yeah, I've got like 45. Dread's got, I don't know, 37. Shepard's got 230. What?
Yep.
But like, maybe 230 keys if you can run through them 3 minutes at a time and you don't get keys from doing a key dungeon. You could blast through 200 keys in an afternoon like you wouldn't believe. But, and I wanted to bring this up, because we've all played Diablo 3 vanilla. When you had to do bounties to get rift keys, so you could do rifts to get trial keys, so you can do trials to get a Greater Rift key. Right now we only know of 1 key, which is fine. But what activity do we have to do to get keys? And if it's the one thing that we hate doing, I don't think we're going to run into a problem of having too many keys. Yeah. So that's the one thing about keys and key farming, is that action of acquiring keys has to at least be somewhat enjoyable. Otherwise, we're not going to run into Dread's issue where we've all got keys raining from the sky because we all hate doing that, like bounties.
Yeah. Well, and to that point, I'm getting the feeling, just the way that they've worded it, that it's going to be a world drop, meaning it's just like anywhere, anything you're doing, you're going to get keys. But again, that's an assumption. We don't know that for sure. So
yeah, that was my thought when they were going, like, almost how you said, like, you're gonna be out in the wilderness of Sanctuary. Cue Jurassic Park theme music. you get a key. This gets a key. Kill this goatman. You get 3 keys. I don't know why. He was the janitor over in the cave. But yeah, it's like, and you know what? After you explained it, you know, that may be a thing. And you know what? That's also a different play styles. I mean, there could be there could be the person who comes on, logs in for like an hour a day, and they don't really get that many keys, but they're not really able to run that many keys. Versus
that's kind of me.
Versus all the freaking tryhards that, like, oh, they started their stream, they're going to be playing for 10 hours, so yeah, they need to be funneled keys like all the fucking time.
Yeah.
So,
and it's what's going to be really interesting is, and you guys jump in if I'm wrong, but I don't remember them giving an opinion on whether keys would be tradable.
True.
I don't remember. I don't think a question like that came up in the press interview. I don't think they would be tradable.
I would be surprised if they're tradable. Like, that would surprise me.
Because the way that they were talking, how they would be so many dropping that you would,
You're
you know,
gonna shard them,
target
right?
and get
Yeah.
rid of them for the materials.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
almost kind of like a pseudo. I don't know. It's weird. It's like, what's the opposite of a dump? Like, we're so used to like gold dumps or item dumps. Like, what's the opposite? Because that's almost kind of like what they're telling us that they're going to be. It's like
Hoard.
it's going to be like a source, I guess.
Like a main
For
source
this-
of whatever crafting material they turn into.
Yeah.
That's going to be the main the generator of those crafting materials is going
Yeah.
to be all these keys that you're destroying.
Yeah.
True.
But
So I love dungeons. I'm so excited for them. I love the fact that WoW Mythic keys came from Greater Rifts, and I love the fact that
full
now
circle.
Diablo 4 dungeons are getting into the game because of World of Warcraft Mythic dungeons. It's pretty fantastic to see the two teams. Like, you can see, and we know that there are multiple people that have worked on both the Diablo team and the WoW team. Like, you can see the learning. Like, we tried this, okay, we like that, let's
Mhm.
change it, put it in this game, okay, we like that, let's change it a little bit, let's put it in this game. And you can see the breadcrumbs following along. It's really fun to see that kind of at a 40,000 foot angle, the development process on some of these features.
Yeah. It's that's definitely a valid point. And when do you, I mean we're going like an hour and 20, but it's like, I guess if I had to like list off like some things, maybe a lot of things that I just loved about the game, and just almost like rapid fire. I love how the world is one giant ass zone, and the zone itself. Now, some people may have their disagreements on how, like, they said the overworld and underworld. That's how they were describing how the overworld, basically, you know, the landmass, it's one huge zone, 5 regions with small towns for, you know, your stash and all this stuff. There's open world zones for bosses like Ashava. There'll even be PvP zones. Oh yeah, PvP is back. I know we haven't really talked about that, but they kind of just mentioned
True.
it almost like in passing, like it's gonna be there. We'll let you know
It's
what it
one of
looks.
those, like, I think Knight said, like, they had their notes, their points, and Dread, you said, like, buzzwords. Like, they wanted to make sure that they said
Yeah.
PvP like X amount of times. Like,
Yeah.
okay, we need to make sure we say PvP 10 times so they know that we're going to have PvP in this game, even though we have no idea how we're going to do it. We need to make sure to say it 10
Yeah.
times, and then we're good. And then they'll all believe it, and they'll all like it, and
Yeah.
then we'll just move on.
So
True,
there's
true.
PvP zones. The dungeons are in static locations, so you know exactly where you go when you get a key. It's not like the whole overworld magically switches, which would be a little bit weird. Mounts are in the game because it cannot be.
Huge.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I think you have to really go back to the World and Lore panel where they show the area that was on the demo, and then they zoom out to the entirety of the map that you'll be able to stretch. It goes like, oh, this is a nice area. Like, oh, that's like a quarter.
Or
Yeah.
even less. Yeah, it's huge.
No, like the size of a quarter.
Yeah.
And they said that area of the demo, if you did everything, was anywhere between 5 and 6 hours worth of content. If you did everything, like if you were like, I had a completionist type deal, like you did the open world, you did all the dungeons, you did all the quest work around it, 6 hours to do everything. So you could imagine how in like a season, because oh yeah, seasons are coming back too. You're like, I'm just gonna focus on the main storyline so I can get up to max level as quickly as possible. like, or like just completely ignore the main story and just do dungeons if possible. Like there's gonna have to be a whole new way of looking. How do I get up to max level in seasons, and what that's gonna entail, which is great. There's like so much. The environments, since it's one big zone, like I can't tell you. Going in playing the sorceress felt really good, but it was made so much more better by the way the environment was crafted. When you got out of that little crypt area, and then you had the little in-game cinematic crawling through the tunnel, then you come out and then you see the town and the surrounding landscape, and there was real verticality. Those like cliffs with sheer cliff edges, but what you saw behind the cliffs was an area you can get to. It wasn't just skybox, because that area was bordered off because it was a static area. Like, no, you could get there, so you wind your way down, and then you get to an area where you can just climb down a sheer cliff wall with like vines or something, and then you'd be able to go there. It was a totally different, immersive gameplay that just, you're not, like, D3 seems pretty good, but when you play this and go back to D3, you're like, oh my god, I feel like I'm playing on rails in D3 compared to this. Like you don't,
very much so.
And like my favorite thing is, like, you don't need a bridge to cross the water. Like, there's a little creek, you just run over it. They have the technology. They got it.
I was just gonna say.
It's
well, and
so yeah. So I guess that's like the entirety of like the environment, and just like everyone thought like, oh, but like all the colors look muted and pale. I'm like, the world like almost fucking died. Like and we complain about rainbows and you want to be these bright, bold colors. Like, do people even know what they are saying, and do they know what they mean when they say them? It's like the world is bleak. It is like dying. Pale is the right kind of color set. Everything just works. I love how everything looked. Dungeons and just like the whole feel, like the loading screens, getting rid of those, it doesn't break you out of the immersion, and it's something like you almost get used to in D3, but now that you play down before, it's like, oh my god. It's like you're immersed, you're there. A Fallen's coming up behind you, like, I have to run away, a loading screen will save me. No.
No, that's quite true. And I was watching one of the art panels on the virtual ticket, and I was actually quite impressed on all the items that they showed, and it was kind of tying into what you were talking about the like the lighting and just kind of the palettes that they were using and things like that. And another piece, when you're talking about going through the world and just running around and all the verticality and whatnot, it was kind of neat when they showed that they actually put some time and technology into, when you're running up and down hills, that the characters actually lean back and lean forward as if you would, you know what I mean, in the real world, going up and down the hills. So I mean, you're going down the hill, you lean back just a little bit so that you're not, you know what I mean, you don't fall over yourself. And same idea, you're going up the hill, you lean forward a little bit just to keep your traction. And when you actually see them break it down like that, it's like, oh wow, that is cool. Obviously, when you're playing the game, you kind of lose it a little bit just because everything's going on and you're not really just focusing on what your character's doing. But it's really awesome to see those little tidbits that they're throwing in, and like you say, just that attention to detail that they're doing.
I'm really excited. Like I seriously, like I know I said my first impression was underwhelmed, but seeing what they put together just for the demo, and then said, like, we haven't actually touched the end game yet, this is just one piece of it, and that there's gonna be layers upon layers, hopefully, of what you're actually, like, what your activities are going to do. That's probably my biggest gripe when it comes to Diablo 3, is like, there's one thing to do, and it's grind Paragon, which gag me, please.
I'll gag you after I gag myself.
Seriously.
I'm first one in that line no matter what.
I don't, which is why I don't grind Paragon. Like, I get to Paragon 800, 900 in a season, and I'm like, hey guys, we'll see you in a couple months, the next season start.
He's not lying, just so you know.
No, that's literally what
That's true.
I'll come back like the week the season ends maybe and be like, hey, do you guys want to play this character I haven't played in a month and a half? And they're like, Paragon 1500, 1600, or Paragon 750. Whee! I feel like I'm hitting with a wet noodle. But like having multiple things to do, like choice, like actual meaningful choice on what I'm going to do to play the game. Like items are going to be what they are, systems are going to be what they are. Gameplay is what drives people to come back day after day to play a game. I know that's like shouldn't be that revolutionary thought, but it is. And it's why Diablo 3, for all of its problems, is still one of the like best-selling PC games ever, because the gameplay is so good. And if they give you multiple options of things to do and keep that solid gameplay, like they could do anything else in the game. It doesn't matter. The game is going to be an incredible success. So keep the core gameplay crisp and smooth and great. Add layers of in-game, add meaningful choice of things to do that are still rewarding. And the game can't help but be successful.
And to piggyback off that, for again those that haven't had a chance to play it, they're off to an awesome start. Like you say, it feels really solid. It feels great, and basically to what Lionsword is saying, just keep expanding, keep going, just go with it. So
Yeah, and you know that actually, I guess double piggyback off of what you said, Lion. Something that's always been kind of like on the back of my head. I'm like, why are some games really good and why are some not? And why are some games that you wouldn't think would be good turn out to be excellent, and others that you think would be primed for success fail and burn horribly? I mean, you could look at like going back to like, who thought Minecraft would have been as explosive? I mean, that's not even the correct term. That's like underselling it. Just like the sheer reach that it had. Like
it was revolutionary. I mean, it created an entire genre.
Yeah, but it's like it's basically a building sim with pixel art. It's like, what is this? And meanwhile, granted, we're jumping to the future now. So it's not it's more of an apple oranges comparison. But when you look at something like Anthem, where it's like, oh, you know, they're selling it, it's this great graphic game, giant open world, you're wearing a suit that you can customize, you're gonna have these missions, have these epic events, and it flops.
Why did I know that Anthem was going to be the example we used for this example?
Well, it's published by EA, so it's an easy shoe-in right there. And I think, and it's like, it's something that I only kind of figured out when introducing kind of a third game to this mix, when Classic came out, and I was reluctant on playing Classic because I'm like, I've played it, I have my memories of it. Do I really want to play it? Because I feel like, am I playing it? I'm making new memories. Am I going to be overriding those memories when I play this? So I was like, you know what? Let me play it. Let me see how the game was. Let me see if I really, if I'm still tough enough of a player to play this game. And
it was glorious, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes, it was.
And you know how hard, the game, and the thing is, the game wasn't hard. You just had to put in the effort. Things weren't like all the things people said that vanilla was. It really wasn't. It was just something else. It was just a difference in perspective. But it was when I played Classic, and I swear I'm getting to a point, everybody, is games that do really well, like vanilla to Classic, even retail. Games like Minecraft, games like even StarCraft. You wouldn't think about it, but StarCraft with its arcade mode and everything. When you look at games that are really doing well, and not just based off of popularity or what everyone's talking about, is that they are great facilitators of player content and the community. And when you think about games and how successful games are through that perspective, you can see why Diablo 3 is as good as it is. Because the game with its builds facilitates many ways of playing, albeit the two only freaking ways we play it, through either rifts or greater rifts. So it's not really a great facilitator in that. But the variety of builds with the classes, there's over 4 dozen builds you can play. And it's a great facilitator for the community because the community, there's build videos, there's the math behind it, there's clans, so those are just natural environments for people to gather, come together, play, find groups, find more people, expand people's friends list, meet more people, etc., etc. And then the interlocking between mainly Twitch and people you find, it's a great facilitator. Same thing, and you take that and you up it by orders of magnitude when you think about any version of WoW. WoW was difficult, so you had to find people to help you out. You had to learn about your class, so you had to go to forums, and you had to go to this to understand how to play your class better, so you could find a raiding guild, and you further extended what would probably have been a shorter amount of time you would have played the game. You extended it out through the game itself, but through the people in the community. So when I look at Diablo 4, with what you said, Lion, it looks like they're kind of hitting that tone, where they want to make it a great facilitator of things to do, where you can do your world bosses, you can do your dungeons, you can do your endgame dungeons. They're giving the player, they're opening up the decision making. They're giving us players the breathing room to do more things. And also, they said clans are going to be in there. There's going to be a clan trading bank, whatever that's gonna entail and allow people to do, as well as a clan avatar and also clan activities. They said clan activities like 3 times. It was stated once or twice in the group interview, but at least they have those 4 things. So they're taking the idea of what clans are, which is essentially just a centralized friends list in Diablo 3 and a chat function. And they're even expanding it and almost giving it and putting in all the different functions of the game with, that aforementioned trading clan and a clan banner. So there's some pride in your clan and everything, as well as the activities that you'll do. Now we don't we don't have definitions on a lot of these systems. Only what they showed us and what people saw either on the demo, on the streamer VODs, on the panels. It's pretty much what we know, and we were there. But it seems like the game is going to be a great facilitator, and that gives me many high hopes for its future, because the game can only do so much by itself. But if it allows people to do more than just what the game dictates, or at least give players wiggle room to try to make their own activities, then I feel the game will have a lot of life to it.
Well said.
Yes, agreed.
It's like, I know I'm talking a lot, but it's because I'm passionate, and it's not just carrying on about XYZ system from Diablo 3 that needs to be fixed for like the 30th time.
Yeah.
It has to be talking about something like new and refreshing.
Like, for real, if you wanted to have like a legit D4 breakdown podcast, we should have broken this up into 5 podcasts, because the 3 of us, based on BlizzCon, the 3 of us could talk about this for a lot longer than an hour and a half.
Well, we're at an hour and 40. We can go a little bit longer, but
I was going to say we're closing in on 2 here, so.
But it's like we could talk about items and runes, which are great.
I don't want to talk about items. Ugh. The community is so divided on this right now, and they're not like. I just I've heard so many things. I've heard Diablo 2 streamers be like, hey, I like all these things, except all of these things aren't Diablo 2. Can we just make all of these things like Diablo 2? And then that would be great. I'm like, we don't want Diablo 2 all over again. I want, like, something more. I want something better.
We want Diablo 4, not Diablo 2 times 2.
Yeah. And, like, so itemization is going to be a huge topic. Like, I'm really excited that we're going to get, at least it seems, quarterly updates on what they're thinking and what they're doing. That's very exciting.
Definitely.
But like I worry less about items. Like their design philosophy of having sets be more of a building block to get to your in-game builds. I don't necessarily personally believe that I have to like find rare yellow items and those need to be part of my in-game build. Like I'll just find rare legendaries and those can be part of my in-game build. But like I'm not worried about the details of itemization. I've heard their general philosophy, which is going to be legendaries are going to be generally what you aim for. You can use sets as kind of building blocks to get to your in-game build. That sounds perfect to me. They'll figure out the details. That's not kind of the level of detail that I am interested in really delving into.
And
it kind of is. It's just going to be whatever it is.
Yeah, and how they introduced mythics, which initially internally I was like, "Oh, mythics, the new primal." But like,
it's way different.
I'm like, no, because primals really, it's apples and oranges. Because primals are kind of like their own bastardization within the system. And it's not really the same thing. If anything, I like how Nineball described it, and it's surprising that other people either didn't catch on or didn't describe it the same way. How mythics are kind of like the new, like, enigmas or stuff like that.
Yeah, it's the new rune word.
It's like, the way I'm viewing it is like, I'm never going to shoot for a mythic because the legendary powers are random on the item. So it's like, I'm not going to shoot for a mythic ever, but if one ever drops, it will be an amazing event when it drops. And I bet my ass. You bet my ass. However that phrase is supposed to go. That if it's a good enough mythic, I'll be trying to figure out how to contort my entire source at that point to try to make it work, because it's like, it's like 4 legendary properties on one item.
I think that's the gameplay they're looking for.
It's
like they want it to be an event. They want you to get this item and be like, okay, how am I gonna fit this into my build? How am I gonna change what I'm doing to make this work? Like that's the type of like engagement into the game. They don't want you to search for a specific item and then you get it. Like Ancient Furnace. Ancient Furnace has become the joke of all the West March Workshop, right? But like the Ancient Furnace used to be like the thing that you wanted to get. And you get it and you're excited, and then you're not excited anymore because you got it. And now what do you do? Like what are you looking for?
You look for a better Ancient Furnace.
Right, which is terrible. Like that, nobody thinks that that's a good gameplay loop.
Yeah, because we all forget, like Diablo 3's like itemization is like, you get the piece you need for that slot, and then it's constant side grading. It's not even upgrading; it's side grading because you're getting the same piece. You just want better rolls. So you're not looking. There's no staircase. It's like literally rare to the legendary piece you need in that slot, and then side grading until you get something that's like 99% of like the total max value of all the affix ranges on that slot, and then you're done. So and I just to touch briefly, I love how they're reworking sets, because I'm sorry, Nite. I'm taking up your time. I'll try to be quick, because everyone blames sets in D3 for ruining the game when it's not really sets. It's not really the set's fault. It's really the design philosophy that the development team went with, for better or worse, for their own reasons, that were based on other reasons, that sets were the best way of introducing new powers, and easiest way of balancing the classes, because it was either take a couple of sets that were the Necro or the Wizard, bump up the numbers a lot, so that's why at least everyone can clear the same stuff. But fundamentally, the classes, all of them, fundamentally, the classes are all broken. Because if a skill is not on the set, that skill is useless, unless it has some weird esoteric kind of use, like as like a buff, so to speak. But the Wizard, for instance, with magic armor, or magic weapon, I'm sorry. So I'm happy that sets are a stepping stone. Like, they'll be useful in the beginning. So when you see that set in the beginning as your max level or as you're leveling, we don't know. Like, okay, this is cool, but you know that slot is not going to be permanently green for the rest of your character's life. Eventually, it will get replaced by a legendary or a different legendary. So that slot isn't so much locked into like it's always gonna be something green. Like for the rest of your character's life, like how it is in Diablo 3. It will switch, it will change, your character will evolve. And I think that's perfect. So with that said, we go back to you, Nite, because I know I interrupted you and your
No,
I just
no.
wanted to make sure
No.
that that was understated in it.
Definitely. And with itemization, I was going to add as well was that it'll be interesting if they use the smart loop concepts. The feeling I have is yes, but again, that's just purely feeling. There's no fact or one way or the other on that, because of, as you guys were mentioning about mythics and whatnot, when those drop, it would, statement of obvious, it's really going to suck if you're like, okay, mythic, and why the heck is this a sorceress or a barbarian or whatever class I'm not playing kind of thing. Again, assuming that you can throw it in your stash and pick it up on the other character, not the end of the world. But again, if you're one of the players that just plays one or two classes and you get one for one of the other three classes, it's like, well, that's great. I'm just going to shard this thing and throw it in the dustbin. So hopefully they do that. And also too, related to the mythics, where you don't want to get 4 affixes where you get a barbarian affix, a sorceress affix, and you get the idea. And it's just like, oh god, what the heck do I do with this thing? It's like 75% of it I can use, but there's this junk stat on here because it's for some other class. And tying that back as well, in the demo when I was playing the barbarian, I actually got a sorceress ring. And I asked them about it, and they're like, it's just a demo. They said, don't worry about it. So that's the hope that they're kind of driving towards, the smart loop concept. But obviously, it'll be very interesting to see how they implement it and how strict or loose they make it. So.
I'm curious, when you asked that question, was that in regards to the Hydra ring? Or was there a different one?
I actually can't remember. That's a good question. I just remember that it had a sorceress. It said in brackets, for sorceress kind of thing on it. Honestly, I can't remember. It was a legendary ring, but I just can't rember if it had.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it was a Hydra, because it can't be stated enough. Like, there was so much to look at the demo. Unless you were someone of the media, raise his hand. So I'm guilty of this. But you spent all your time at the demo, with pen and paper and writing down stuff for future use, and you were one of the lucky few streamers that be like, okay, this playthrough we're just gonna go through all the skills and just hover over all the talents for this class, and then because they have the VOD, they can go back over it later, in a week and a half, oh, what was that, and just go to that part and just clip it and go from there. Because that's what people did on Icy Veins and other websites. It just kind of did that with the streamers who did clip, assemble the whole tree. So all the skills, at least as they have them, even if they weren't be playable or shown, they're all known for all the classes, at least how they are right now.
Definitely, and really, yeah. It's a smart way for them to do it. It's the way to do it. Like you say, just basically do the video version of screenshots and then just look at it later. It's like you say, don't spend your time documenting it right now. I'll just look at it later when I have more.
Yeah, and it's just it was different in the Reaper Souls when we had the Crusaders. Okay, Crusaders, oh, look at that, they're introducing 3 ranks of new gems. Okay, that's good. Inventory system, okay, ooh, that changed. And then no, this is completely new. So I was inevitably things fell through the cracks, and then there's stuff this person learned something through a developer offside conversation. This person learns something through like an offside developer communication. And it's like after BlizzCon, it's like 2 to 3 weeks of like everyone kind of doing their wrap ups, and then eventually one giant like mega information post somewhere gets made, and then that kind of brings a complete picture. But I guess,
Well,
yeah, I guess just in like summation, because there's still a lot of stuff we haven't touched on, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be an all-encompassing discussion. I think what we talked about is good, but I feel like they're definitely have a good foundation. I think they definitely picked the right tone. They're displaying that tone, the classes, and their aim for the character customizations. How they eventually want to get up to like what WoW does. So you can pick the hair, you can pick features, eyes, body type, all that. Like, forgot about that because everything else we've talked about. It's like, again, it's like there's just so much that they're just trying to do to make Diablo feel good and relevant in this day and age, and then even go beyond that. I think they have a good solid foundation, and I believe the team is focused on the right path to get it to that point. That's my overall feeling as I was leaving BlizzCon, and still feel that way now with what they've talked about since.
It's gonna be really good. It's gonna be so good. Like, this is, I know, Nite, you were saying earlier that you, opening a ceremony and the panels, you were more fanboy than anything else. Like, that's where I'm at now. Like, I've seen what they're gonna do. It's gonna be amazing. I am like not even a little concerned at all. It's gonna be so good.
And I guess the only concern we'll have going forward, and we'll see how the community and the internet at large treats it, is patience. Now everyone needs a lot of patience, because we know it's going to be a while.
It's going to be a while.
Yep. We'll see what demo they bring us for next BlizzCon, and then we'll go from there.
So for posterity measures, before we end the show, we're gonna play a guessing game. We're gonna do a dangerous guessing game. This is like BlizzCon predictions, but just take it to a whole new level.
Nice.
I want to get. It'll be for all three of us, and I'll start, and then we'll go Lion and Nite. So Nite, you get the benefit of what we say. I want to know first, what do you think the next two classes are gonna be? So you guys can think about that. And then the next thing is, when do you think the beta is going to be? And then lastly, when do you think the game is actually going to come out? So we'll take a couple of seconds.
Are you going to go first with the classes?
I'll go first. I'll do all three. I'll do classes, the beta, and the game.
Okay.
So we'll do some Jeopardy music. Okay. So after overhearing conversations, specifically 9-Wall, and you kind of take in consideration the tone of the game that they're going for, I wouldn't be surprised if the Necromancer came back. Especially if it came back now with how whacked the world is, balance-wise. And of course, Necro is always a fan favorite, and it would satisfy that secondary caster / pet class type deal. The fifth one is, I'm gonna give 2, but I'm gonna give a reason for either one. I know, because because the game is. I know it's cheating.
This is your show. I know this is your show, but you're totally cheating right now.
I know. But it's for a very valid reason. If they want to have a healer class in the game, so there could be some form of healing, then I would think going back to the paladin or some variant of a paladin would be valid. But if they truly want to have it to where it's like, no man, fuck all, it's only you yourself and your dead friend Jim next to you, then I could see him going to like an assassin class where they can kind of work in like a ranged bow, maybe, or give some flavors of Demon Hunter, give some flavors of an Amazon, but it's what it's aimed towards that way. The game, as far as being an open beta, and I'll have to keep my year straight. Okay, so it's 2019 now, basically 2020. I'm thinking an open beta, no, I'm thinking just a general beta will start probably late next year or early 2021. But the game is going to come out second half of 2021. I don't think it's going to go to 2022 at all. If it goes to 2022, something happened. Because even though we had the demo at BlizzCon, the way the demo works is they have a development tree. And they're going, and at some point, maybe 3-4 months ago, now that we're almost at the end of November, a team of developers went, okay, this is all we have available that's in the game, and we were just gonna bug test, polish, make sure we get it ready for the demo. But everybody else on the main tree was continue to build, keep on pushing, forward, refine, fix, go. There was a comment, SVR was talking to a couple of developers. I mean, he went full ham talking to developers and getting insights. I'm actually really proud of him. And I'm happy, since this is only his second time, that he really kind of jumped into that. He got his money's worth and more so. Which is kind of a joke of itself, but that's for another podcast. For that, and what he talked about is that he was talking to developers, as one of the developers who was more working on the actual game, not just the demo. He was curious because he didn't really pay attention to what they were doing on the demo, and that's not atypical of development at all in these games when you have a demo team versus the actual game team. And he was like, oh, so that's what I forgot what the UI looks like. I forgot that's how that works. Oh god, that? Oh yeah, we fixed that already. That looks completely different. So just through like that small conversation, it's like, yeah, like they've already improved on stuff that we may be putting, that we or members of the community may be putting so much weight on. It's like may have already been changed before we saw it all. Like it's like the demo could be like that email you send out by accident, and before people start pointing out the errors in it, you already have the correct one in the pipeline getting ready to send out, but people are still critiquing the first one. It may be a situation like that. So yeah, like I don't think it's really that outrageous. I think when they said not soon, not Blizzard soon, I think they were trying to tell people like it's not gonna be out next year. I think that's what they were trying to tell people, like don't expect this to be out next year. But I think 2021 is very reasonable, because the only reason they're gonna need a long demo, I feel, it's not so much the classes or the class balancing per se, because that can be done relatively easy, especially if they have a new engine with new tools. Oh yeah, new engine, forgot to cover that. Dynamic daylight cycles, dynamic weather, yeah, again, all these things we're gonna cover. It's probably going to be about just testing the world and all the open world events and all the quests and all the dungeons and everything, because it's so fucking massive. I think that's going to be the thing that's going to take the longest time to demo. But I think a demo going anywhere between 6 and 8 months would be more than fine, especially if there's not like string name items like there was in Rebirthed Souls beta. I was like, ooh, that's a really good item. I have no idea what it is. I take a screenshot of the icon so I know what it looks like in the real game. Like, what's this like wand that's name is X_1_ blah 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 underscore exp2? Like, I don't know. So yeah, so my long answer is assassin for non-Healy or a Paladin, along with probably guaranteed Necro. Beta starting late next year, or right after New Year's 2021, with the game actually coming out by the end of 2021. So I've given you enough time with my blabbering line. What do you think?
So Lucas and we've already talked about all this, so my answers are really short. So I look at classes as kind of a, if they're going to have 5, we have to fit certain roles, right? So we've got the Barbarian, who's your big physical bruiser. Okay. We've got Caster, Sorceress. Okay. We've got Melee and Caster ranged hybrid in the Druid, who also does shapeshifty stuff, so that's cool. He's also got pets. Could they build a pet tree with the Druid? I think probably not. Probably not the pet class. Mm-hmm. But that seemed more like Demon Hunter companions to me than it did.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Skeletons. So, what do we need? We need a pet class. Hunter is the new pet class for Diablo 4. It's takes a lot of inspiration from the World of Warcraft Hunter. Takes a lot of inspiration from the companion skill on the Demon Hunter. It takes a lot of inspiration from the Amazon Diablo 2. Roll all those things together. Now you've got a wilderness hunter that kind of fits the same theme of that highland area that we are in. Okay, so that's the new pet ranged physical class. Mm-hmm. Instead of no Necro, which I'm probably going to be wrong because I would be really surprised if they don't do Necro. But I'm going no Necro. So that pretty much fills all of the main roles that Diablo games have ever had. You've got to have a bruiser, you got to have a hybrid, you got to have a caster, and since Diablo 2, we've had a pet class. Mm-hmm. So what else are they going to have? Well, I think they're going to have Paladin, because Paladin, I think, was the biggest omission from Diablo 3. They brought it back with the Crusader, but I still don't feel like the Paladin players really bought into the Crusader, because they were just a little too different. So that's where I'm going, is I'm going Paladin as kind of another magic physical hybrid, whereas the Druid is more like a caster hybrid. The Paladin is more like a physical hybrid with calling in. I get visions of the Diablo 2 Paladin when I say this. You're playing a Vengeance Paladin where you swing your sword and it does physical damage and elemental damage at the same time. Mm-hmm. I think that will probably be important in some way for Diablo 4 in general, is being able to do both of those things. So that's my classes: pet, ranged, physical, and holy warrior. I think we'll get the beta at BlizzCon next year. I think the game will release summer of 21.
You're more specific than me. I like it.
Also, like I said, Lucas and I have already talked about this. As soon as we got back from BlizzCon, we were like, okay, when are all these lists happening? So I had these answers ready.
I like your answers, especially on the beta and the release, because you're
pretty close.
You're better than me. You're like, no, man, it's gonna be out summer, because that would be nice.
Would be nice.
Even though it's weird with a child, it's asterisk moment. It's like, okay, 2021, Robin will be anywhere between 2.5 to 3.5 years old. It's weird when you start doing that. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this in a couple of years, Robin. Oh god, there's so much life that's gonna happen between now and then. and it's never gonna end, so it's like, joy. But yeah. Alright, Nite, what do you think?
So on mine, I was feeling I was going to be optimistic on the dates, but it's sounding from hearing you guys, maybe I'm not so optimistic. So I'll get to that in a sec. For the classes, I think, as you guys mentioned about kind of the fan favorite with the Necro, that's where my mind went. It's in D2, played the living crap out of Necro, and that was basically most of what I played there. The other one was Paladin, so I mean, it seems like we've got a kind of a general consensus among us, anyways, on the general classes we'd like to see, and that one's more of just a feel. I mean, honestly, I never really played it in D2, which sounds counterintuitive. It's like, well, why would you want to bring it, into D4 if you've never played it, kind of thing. But I think, as Lion said, I mean, the Crusader had little bits and pieces of it, and I mean, I've been happy with what they've done there. I mean, perfect or not, whatever your opinion is there, but I think it just feels like something that would fit in the world that is D4. And I mean, obviously we'll see if the developers agree or not on that as they go on. Moving into the release, the betas and the release date and whatnot, I was looking more at so we've got 2019, we've got our first demo. I was looking at BlizzCon 2020 as our second demo, and them announcing words to have the beta in 2021. So then that would lead into the next year, and then we'll have kind of that 2021 BlizzCon. We'd have kind of the final ish beta or demo. Sorry, is what I meant to say, where they're kind of like, okay, here's kind of where we're aiming with it. Here's kind of our final build of sorts, and then into 2022 at some point. I don't know. I mean, would that be? We'll just say middle of 2022 that it would launch from there. Just gives them some time after BlizzCon to kind of finish things up and launch from there. So we'll see, again, with them mentioning not even Blizzard soon. That's where I was feeling like, oh god, it could be even further out than that. But you guys bring up some good points too. But that's kind of where my mind was going on release dates and betas and whatnot.
Yeah.
I have to pick a hole. Because, like I said, I've thought about this class thing a lot. If they go Necro and Paladin, there would be no class that uses ranged weapons.
Leviathan would be so sad.
And I don't think that that's necessarily a problem. They would just take bows out of the game until the expansion, when the Amazon is released, or the Hunter, or whatever they would call it. But I think that would be a problem. So I considered that when I thought about the classes I was picking. I'm like, there has to be a ranged physical class, because there's always been one since Diablo 2. Since there were traditional classes, right? Diablo 1 doesn't count because there were 3 archetypes and you could just do whatever you wanted to. The archetypes were around.
No, it's some really good points, like you say, and it goes without saying, we're just throwing things at the wall, so we'll see where it goes. But it's a really good point.
It's spaghetti against the wall at this point.
So
I'm hungry.
No soup for you. Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see if they have something at PAX East, which I'm just close enough to contemplate going, if I'm invited, if they have a thing. But then again,
that'd be awesome.
It's gonna be like a 5-hour drive. It would be almost as long as the flight to California is. And
I was gonna say, is that better than a 5-hour flight?
No airports, I guess? Question mark?
Yeah, I don't want to think about it. Yeah, it'll be really interesting what, as far as next year is concerned, it's going to be interesting what PAX East is going to be, because they've had a presence there when Diablo went to consoles for the first time, and when the Necromancer was shown off, they showed off the female Necromancer along with the Thorns build there, which was completely new on both ends. So PAX East tends to be where they'll show off new stuff if they have something to show off at that particular point. So PAX East, of course, Gamescom next year, if they have an actual booth, not just their gear store, they actually have a booth or display, whatever, that'll be interesting. And then next year is BlizzCon. So those 3 events next year are what I'm going to be paying attention to if they have anything to show off for the game, other than just like bringing the demo stations there so more people can just play and experience it and give feedback. But yeah, other than that, as we cross over the 2-hour and 7-minute mark on the recording, on this Friday. God, what time is it then? My time.
Almost 1 o'clock.
It's almost 1.
Closing in on 1, man.
It's almost. We're in morning time. I'm. See, every time you saw me looking this way, I've been looking at the baby monitor. So, especially.
Robin's, she's a trooper. She's sleeping.
I know. A special shout out to Robin, my daughter, for sleeping through this whole thing and not having to put up the SpongeBob scene like 2 hours later.
Absolutely.
And I was gonna say, and obviously the listeners that have made it this far too. So.
Yes, you are troopers too. Special shout out to you, the listener. I love you. No reward, but
no reward.
No reward, but my undying love to you, my listeners, or at this point, and to you too. Thank you for joining me on this special Scythe and Shield Rebirth with you guys, because I didn't want this podcast to be, just the streamers or the podcasters. I wanted to include the everyday folk as well and get perspectives from there.
Yeah, appreciate it. No, it's been great to be on, and thanks so much for having us. Really appreciate it.
Yep. I was like, he's gonna say something. I know it. That's why I moved slowly.
We haven't lost him yet, although we're getting close.
just remember, Lion, for however tired you are, I'm an hour ahead of you. So.
Yeah, dude, I know. I feel you, dude. I mean, obviously, I was the one that was causing all the scheduling problems. We've been trying to get this done all week. I appreciate you guys being flexible and working around the tight schedule, man. Just wait, dude. Once you have like 3 kids and they're like 12 and 10.
Oh, we're only having this one. Like,
no, I don't believe you.
No,
don't believe you. No. 2 years from now, you guys are gonna look at a baby. If you guys go to church, Walmart, you're gonna look over at the baby and go, "Oh, do you remember when
I also
Robin
remember...
was so cute?" Like,
Yeah.
you're not gonna remember any of the shit that you're going through right now. You're not gonna remember anything. You're not going to remember getting up at 2 a.m. You're not going to remember the 4 a.m. when you haven't slept. You're not going to remember any of that. Just throw up all over your shirt all the time, constantly, no matter how many burp rags you have. Doesn't matter. You're not going to remember any of that. You're only going to remember the cute, snuggly baby, and you're going to say to yourself, we should have another one. Plus, Robin needs a sibling, right? Robin needs someone to play with. Like,
Shh. My wife might hear you. Anyways, so thank you for joining me.
It was awesome.
And
look forward to the next invitation.
Yes, and there will be in all due time. So with that, we'll move to the outro, the glorious outro. If you'd like to find the show on the World Web of Internets, totally grandpa mode on that one. You can find it at scytheandshield.com. If you would like to email the show with questions, concerns, general complaints to the management, you can do that at scytheandshield@gmail.com. If you'd like to verbally berate the show on Twitter, that is at scytheandshield. If you want to listen and comment in all those lovely ways you can listen to the show on YouTube, Apple, Google, and Spotify. And of course, join the Discord, where you, the listener, have the power to control, potentially, what guests I bring on. Guests I may not even know about, current D3 members or not, as well as propose questions for those people, or for when I announce when those people are going to be on the show. It allows you to be more interactive with the show. Like we said, we want to give you more decisions in game. We want to give you more decisions with this podcast, or at least choices, or the illusion of choice, however you want to view it. Anyways, last but not least, if you could also leave 5-star reviews on the Apple Podcast section, and if you do, I will read it out loud on the show as a token of appreciation. So with that, thank you for joining the 3 of us on this journey, through my babbling, and through us completely geeking out over Diablo 4. It's here, it's alive, and so are we. At 1 o'clock in the morning. Keep on hacking and slashing, my friends. Have a good evening.